Well, we'll continue the narration from our morning session, where we left in the morning session. So, what we see is that death has revealed his own transcendental form, and Savitri, though in a transcendental form, has encountered death. As the avatar, you see, we have to understand it this way. The avatar has the potential to rise into his or her transcendental state, but being the avatar, they have always to have a footing on earth. That is to say, they must act on behalf of the earth. They cannot just leave the earth and go there and say, hey, we are on that level. So it's kind of, Savitri is brought back to the individual Savitri as an aspirant of earth. So here again the roles change. So we had seen the transcendental Savitri, then but she gets back into her body of her avatar. And now whereas we have death in his own transcendental form, and now there is a dialogue. No more we call him the death. Now we can call him the Supreme. Because then we will see that it is the Supreme's voice that is heard. So you can come to Book 11, Canto 1. The lines start from a new passage, paragraph, which begins with, then like an anthem from the heart's lucent cave. 683, yeah. So here we see a very specific, meaningful dialogue between the Supreme and Savitri. Actually, this is the stage of the final test, as if. Because we want to see if Savitri, after having attained her transcendentalhood, will she come back to earth and work for earth or stay back? In fact, if you remember, this is what had happened to Swami Vivekananda. He had, in his meditations, reached the Brahman consciousness and he was stuck there. For some days he was in that trance, no eating, no sleeping, he was just stuck there. So the disciples had to go and report to Sri Ramakrishna saying that Vivekananda is lost to us. So there may be a danger of his leaving the body. Then Sri Ramakrishna goes to Swami Vivekananda and with his foot he touches his chest. And with that touch, Swami is brought back. And when he returns, he was a bit regretful, saying that, why did you bring me back to earth? Swami Sri Ramakrishna says, no, I did not call you, I did not bring you down upon earth for getting lost in the trance of the Brahman. I have work for you here on earth. So you have to be here, and because you have already tasted that Brahmanhood, you may be tempted to go back. But now I lock the door and I keep the key with me. So there it was. That was the end of Swamiji's visiting the Brahman consciousness. So he was firmly set foot on earth. It's a very remarkable thing. That's exactly what's happening here in Savitri too. So she had become her transcendental self, but then she is brought back. But now she has to undergo a test. That will she stay here or get back, forgetting all her mission, the purpose for which she has started this battle. So this stanza or this part is 1 minute. Now what I would prefer is just raise your fingers, I'll come back to you because in the flow of my thought, I don't want to cut. So what happens is, there is a test and then Savitri and Satyavan, will she forget? And so let us take up this passage which is important as a test before she, like Swami Vivekananda, is put back permanently on earth. There's a very close relevance to the Swamiji's real story and Savitri. Yeah.
Swami Vivekananda was also promised that before he dies, this key will be given.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think before he died, that he still had that realization.
Yeah. Yeah, before he dies, of course, the key is given and he has the last supper like Christ. He has the last lunch here, not the supper. And just like Christ, he washes the hands of all his disciples in that hall. And the disciples were a little surprised that today Swamiji is washing our hands. How come? I mean, after lunch, each one of them, he came and he washed their hands. And having washed, he retires to a room, closes it from inside, gets into meditation. And soon enough, he is there, a sitting statue. But when the disciples break open the door and get in, his body was oozing blood. From the pores of his body, there was blood that came out. Because he had kind of forced himself out. It's not the psychic being slowly went and the body collapsed. He had already previsioned this maybe a year or two back when he writes to Sister Nivedita in some conversation. He says, I may not be seeing my 40th year. He predicts that. So Sister Nivedita, she has a kind of a confusion why Swamiji is saying that. But in the 39th year, he had decided to leave. So it was such a forceful withdrawal that the body, from the pores of the body, and the blood comes out. So that was the story, as it reminds here. He said, my work is done. The work for which I came up on earth is done. So you see, these are these Vibhuti souls. They don't want to live upon earth a minute longer than the purpose for which they have come.
Similar thing is found in Sant Gyaneshwara's life. At the age of just 21, he sat in samadhi.
The Gyaneshwar, is it?
Yes.
Ah.
He came and he shut all the doors and he says, now my work is over, I have to go. And
Yeah.
he just goes.
Yeah, Sant Gyaneshwar, yes. So these are these Vibhutis who come for a specific mission and they leave. It matters not what age, Shankaracharya, Vivekananda, Sant Gyaneshwar, maybe others there are. So now we have a similar situation here. So he says, a voice soared up whose magic sound could turn the poignant weeping of the earth to sobs of rapture and a cry to spirit song. O human image of the deathless word, how hast thou seen beyond the topaz walls? The gleaming sisters of the divine gate summoned the genii of their wakeful sleep, and under revelation's arches forced the carved thought-shrouded doors to swing apart, unlocked the avenues of spiritual sight, and taught the entries of a heavenlier state to thy rapt soul that bore the golden key. In thee the secret sight man's blindness missed has opened its view past time, my chariot course, and death my tunnel which I drive through life to reach my unseen distances of bliss. I am the hushed search of the jealous gods, pursuing my wisdom's vast mysterious work, seized in the thousand meeting ways of heaven. I am the beauty of the unveiled ray, drawing through the deep roads of the infinite night, the unconquerable pilgrim soul of earth, beneath the flaring torches of the stars. I am the inviolable ecstasy. They who have looked on me shall grieve no more. See, I've given this passage mostly to tell you about the last few lines. That this voice is still described more as a voice than as a form. But this is now that ecstasy, the voice of the divine Ananda. I am the inviolable ecstasy. They who have looked on me shall grieve no more. The shall grieve no more, does it ring a bell somewhere?
Sure, with those words, because when he says, those who seek my shelter shall be no more. And also Krishna.
Yeah, I was referring to that. Mas Sucha. Yeah, so grieve no more is common. Well, after that,
I have a question. Is this the voice of the Supreme or what?
the voice of the Supreme, that now death has become the Supreme, there is the voice of the Supreme, is no more the death form, it is the Supreme. Yeah. There is just a couple of lines down below, a couple of beautiful lines. I'm not going, I'm just skipping a few lines, giving you touch of the thing. Maybe I'll come to the last lines of the same stanza there, or the para. Ascend, O soul, into thy blissful home. Get it? Yeah, just towards the end of the paragraph there. Ascend, O soul, into thy blissful home. Here in the playground of the eternal child, or in the domains the wise immortals tread, roam with thy comrade splendor under skies, spiritual lit by an unsetting sun. As Godheads live who care not for the world, and share not in the toil of nature's powers, absorbed in their self-ecstasy they dwell, cast off ambiguous myth of earth's desire, O immortal, to felicity arise. That's the first test, in fact, if you want to understand. So this voice is now tempting this avatar, Savitri, to rise into that felicity. Forget about earth's problems and desires and all that. And even as the gods, he says, as Godheads live who care not for the world and share not in the toil of nature's powers. Well, I remember in, I think, book 1, canto 4 or canto 5 maybe. When he's speaking about the gods, this is what is remarkable. He says, gods actually do not care for the human beings. The real gods are far from all this human cry. And then he brings in a beautiful point that the real gods do not want to be worshipped because they have no ego. You see, why do you want to be worshipped? For ego satisfaction. Look what power I have. People are worshipping me, and there are 5,000 or 5 million or 50 million. So they also go by the Sankhya, the number. So there is a satisfaction of the ego even in the gods. So he says it is the vital gods who like this worship. But the real gods, the overmental gods, they don't like worship. Because they're not satisfied, they're not ego flattered. So Sri Aurobindo is talking about these gods of the higher worlds and the vital worlds. So that is the idea here, that they who care not for the world and share not in the toil of nature's powers. So is telling Savitri that you too can be that carefree and roam with thy comrade splendor under skies spiritual lit by the unsetting sun. On that level there is no setting sun. So this is the first temptation. O immortal, to felicity arise. Then Savitri of course tells down the lines, O besetter of man's soul with life and death, and the world's pleasure and pain and day and night, tempting his heart with the far lure of heaven, testing his strength with the close touch of hell, I climb not to thy everlasting day, even as I've shunned thy eternal night. To me who turn not from thy terrestrial way, give back the other self my nature asks. Thy spaces need him not to help their joy. Earth needs his beautiful spirit made by thee to fling delight down like a net of gold. So you see, she understands it's a test. She says, sorry, I'm not going to part of thy eternal day or this beautiful, wonderful world. She says, give me back. This is the same answer she'll give everywhere. Give back the other self my nature asks. You see, he is the complementary part of my being. So give me back, Satyavan. Earth is the chosen place of mightiest souls. Earth is the heroic spirit's battlefield. These are lovely, inspiring, passages we may not have time to go through, but just to point out why Sri Aurobindo gives so much importance to earth. Earth is the heroic spirit's battlefield, the forge where the archmason shapes his works. Thy servitudes on earth are greater, King, than all the glorious liberties of heaven. The heavens were once to me my natural home. I too have wandered in star-jeweled groves, paced sun-gold pastures and moon-silver swords, and heard the harping laughter of their streams, and lingered under branches dropping myrrh. I too have revelled in the fields of light, touched by the ethereal raiment of the winds. Thy wonder rounds of music I have trod, lived in the rhyme of bright, unlaboring thoughts. I have bare swift harmonies of rapture vast. I have beat sweet harmonies of rapture vast, danced in spontaneous measures of the soul, the great and easy dances of the gods. You see, this gives us an idea when she says, I too, the heavens were once to me my natural home. It gives us the idea that she has chosen. You see, if she wanted, she could have been there in that upper hemisphere. She says, all that what you want to offer to me I have experienced and they were part of my own life. But because earth is the chosen place of the mightiest souls, I've come down upon earth. So you don't have to tempt me with something that I do not know. It's not something that I would like to have it because something new. That what you're offering, I know it already. So then he comes to say down the line a few lines. He says, to dare the impossible with these pangs of search, in me the spirit of immortal love stretches its arms out to embrace mankind. Too far thy heavens for me from suffering men. Imperfect is the joy not shared by all. That is the real title line. You see, Of course, I don't have to explain that line is so simple, so powerful. And that line that matches with that stretches its arms out to embrace mankind. Says, I've come for that, to embrace mankind, not for my personal glory. So basically, he says, why do I need all the joy? Because imperfect is the joy not shared by all. Oh, to spread forth, oh, to encircle and seize more hearts till love in us has filled thy world. O life, the life beneath the wheeling stars, for victory to the tournament with death, for bending of the fierce and difficult bow, for flashing of the splendid sword of God. O thou who soundest the trumpet in the lists, part not the handle from the untried steel, take not the warrior with his blow unstruck. Are there not still a million fights to wage? O Kingsmith, clang on still thy toil begun. Weld us to one in thy strong smithy of life. Thy fine curved jewelled hilt called Savitri, thy blade's exultant smile named Satyavan. Fashion to beauty point us through the world. Break not the lyre before the song is found. Are there not still unnumbered charms to weave? You see, a beautiful imagery of the inseparable role of Savitri and Satyavan. They cannot act separately. As she puts it here, fine curved jeweled hilt is Savitri. Then the blade is Satyavan. So how can the sword be separated, split into two parts, the hilt and the blade? And we have lots of works to do through the world. Break not the lyre. I know that I can lift man's soul to God. I know that he can bring the immortal down. You see, the absolute perfect combination is the dual role. Our will labors permitted by thy will, and without thee an empty roar of storm, a senseless whirlwind is the Titan's force, and without thee a snare the strength of gods. Let not the inconscient gulf swallow man's race, that through earth's ignorance struggles towards the light. You see, a very, very touching line, I suppose. And very specific, in fact, if I can remember, as I told you already, the fight, the battle of both Mother and Sri Aurobindo or Savitri and Satyavan are in the inconscient. You see, they have to come together to fight in the inconscient. Otherwise, they had realized their own supermind. As all of us know very well, the mother, through her own practice and her own path, she realized the supermind, independent of Sri Aurobindo. And Sri Aurobindo, not knowing what the mother has done or is doing, he too realized the supermind. So similarly, both Savitri and Satyavan had their own spiritual achievement. As Kalpana very beautifully traced it out the other day, both are magnificent in their own ways. But the coming together was important for let not the inconscient gulf swallow man's race that through earth's ignorance struggles towards the light. So we are here to save mankind, and for that we need to be together. And then a smile august as noonday heavens, the Godhead of the vision wonderful. How shall earth nature and man's nature rise to the celestial levels, yet earth abide? Heaven and earth towards each other gaze, across a gulf that few can cross, none touch, arriving through a vague ethereal mist, out of which all things form that move in space, the shore that all can see but never reach. Heaven's light visits sometimes the mind of earth. Its thoughts burn in her sky like lonely stars. In her heart there move celestial seeking soft and beautiful like fluttering wings of birds, visions of joy that she can never win, traverse the fading mirrors of her dreams. You see, this one thing you must notice perhaps is this description that we are getting from this supreme voice And this negative description about the earth, its future, its mankind, though it sounds similar to what death was telling Savitri, but it doesn't have the mockery. You see, there is this element because their death was negative force. So it was presenting everything with a tremendous amount of mockery. The negative, you could see the negative aspect. But here, there is a kind of a pathos. But the voice is presenting all that negativity in a pathos only to dissuade. It's not that, if the voice tells everything positive, Savitri would immediately take it. So it has to be negative toned, if I can say, but not what death was telling. It was its own belief. So all that, that how shall earth nature and man's nature rise to the celestial levels, etc. I go forward to and middle of the page somewhere you see, and nothing they mean can stay for long on earth. There are high glimpses, not the lasting sight. A few can climb to an unperishing sun, or live on the edges of the mystic moon, and channel to earth mind the wizard ray. The heroes and the demigods are few, to whom the close immortal voices speak, and to their acts the heavenly clan are near. Few are the silences in which truth is heard, unveiling the timeless utterance in her deeps. Few are the splendid moments of the seers. Heaven's call is rare, rarer the heart that heeds. The doors of light are sealed to common mind, and earth's needs nail to earth the human mass. Only an uplifting hour of stress only in an uplifting hour of stress men answer to the touch of greater things, or raised by some strong hand to breathe heaven air, they slide back to the mud from which they climbed, in the mud of which they are made, whose law they know. They joy in safe return to a friendly base, and though something in them weeps for the glory lost and greatness murdered, they accept their fall. To be the common man, they think the best. To live as others live is their delight. I mean, it's so beautiful. I mean, it's really reflecting our life. I mean, we are perfectly this, I think there couldn't be a better picture of the human beings and the so-called spiritual sadhaks. Here we see they slide back to the mud from which they came. They joy in safe return to a friendly base, and though something in them weeps for the glory lost, they accept their fall. You see, this is what our life is. There are moments when we really, what Aurobindo calls beautifully, uplifting hour of stress. We meditate, we go here, we go there. There's an uplifting hour of meditation, concentration, whatever you want to call. But as it's said in the book one also, but we cannot stay there too long. That zone doesn't have the oxygen for us. We can't breathe. So we come back, and to be the common man, they think the best. To live as others live is their delight. I mean, some other line also. He says, we find safety being like common, to live a common life like other common people. Really, he says, very few can live apart. We all want to belong to the herd of common consciousness. So we feel our safety there. That's why sometimes, although I know philosophically what it means, but sometimes I admire those yogis, those sadhaks who live in the Himalayas, who don't belong to this common earth, they don't want to come back. To live a solitary life, it is tremendously hard, I can imagine. It's not just the physical comforts and the discomforts and the food, that apart. But psychologically, remember, you have no one to talk to, nothing to share, no expression. And so whereas we to live as others live is their delight. All our morality, all our religion is वो कर रहे हैं तो हम भी कर रहे हैं. Live like others. Why the hell are you wanting to be separate? You see, this pull of the earth to belong to earth, and say, I think there are beautiful lines, I don't remember. But earth pulls those who are going away from earth. It says, hey, you are escaping me? No way. So it pulls you back. It pulls you back. So this is the gravitational pull, not only the physical gravitation, but you have the psychological gravitation of the earth. We are not allowed to soar beyond. So yesterday I gave you a line, this or that. Those who are alone, they're stronger. What is that?
Great or strongest when they walk alone.
When they walk alone, the great are strongest. You see, when they walk alone, they alone become great. But we in a herd, 30,000 cows. Once you open the door, Barsana is full of cows. We walk in that herd, we don't know where. Somebody humorously said, we are all walking in the line, that exit line, We don't know when my turn will come. But kahan ja rahe ho? Where are you going? I don't know. I'm in the line. I'm standing in the line. So that is our safety to belong to the common man. So it's a very pathetic passage there we see. Well, I don't want to go through all that. Yeah, we don't have too much time. So, just jump a few lines, come to the next page, we can see. I'd like to just read a few lines from here. He is barred out from his own inner depths. He cannot look on the face of the unknown. How shall he see with the omniscient's eyes? How shall he will with the omnipotent's force? O too compassionate and eager dawn, leave to the circling aeon's tardy pace, and to the working of the inconscient will. Leave to its imperfect light the earthly race. All shall be done by the long act of time. There's another similar line. What is that? All shall be done? Yeah. One is God's touch, transfiguring hour. So there is the transfiguring hour, God's touch, and the long act of time. You see the difference between all the three lines. That's what I want you to think about. Here it says, all shall be done by the long act of time. Is a negative thing. Why are you bothered about this transformation, saving human race? Leave to its imperfect light the earthly race. Let it come in its own time. Let it take its time. But the other one, all shall be done when this God's transfiguring hour. So there is a destiny for each thing to happen. And the other one is much more personal than the touch of the grace. If God's touch is there, everything can happen anytime. So that's the negative thing. And we come to next passage here. The last lines he says are, break into eternity thy mortal mold, melt lightning into thy invisible flame. Clasp ocean deep into thyself thy wave, happy forever in the embosoming surge. Grow one with the still passion of the depths, then shalt thou know the lover and the loved, leaving the limits dividing him and thee. Receive him into boundless Savitri, look thyself into infinite Satyavan. O miracle, where thou beganst, there cease. But Savitri answered to the radiant God, in vain thou temptest with solitary bliss two spirits saved out of a suffering world, my soul and his indissolubly linked in the one task for which our lives were born, to raise the world to God in deathless light. To bring God down to the world on earth we came, to change the earthly life to life divine. What we are talking about, the mission of Savitri. Here are those lines. I keep my will to save the world and man, even the charm of thy alluring voice, O blissful Godhead, cannot seize and snare. I sacrifice not earth to happier worlds. So this is the spirit. She says, I come for this mission to raise the world to God in deathless light, to bring God down to the world on earth we came. This is the essential mission. In one word, this is the work of Savitri Satyavan as well as Sri Aurobindo the mother. So she says, I sacrifice not earth to happier worlds. I have a poem here from volume 5, Sri Aurobindo's works. The poem is called The Life Heavens. We know very well that Sri Aurobindo is not writing anything out of pure imagination. It's just solid experience. So something is reflected in his poem called The Life Heavens. So I'll just read a couple of stanzas here. He says he was there in a plane of the life heavens. A life of intensities wide, immune, floats behind the earth and her life fret, a magic of realms mastered by spell and rune, grandiose, blissful, colored, increte. A music there wanders, mortal ear hears not, ceasing, intimate, remote, wide winged in soul spaces, fire clear, heaping note on enrapturing new note. Forms deathless there triumph, hues divine thrill with nets of glory the moved air. Each sense is an ecstasy, love the sign of one outblaze of Godhead, the two share. This is a beautiful world, heaven place, colors and lights and sounds and love, everything. So that is the heaven. He is stuck there, my spirit sank, drowned in the wonder surge. He gets lost. Screened, withdrawn was the greatness it had sought. Lost was the storm stress and the warrior urge. Lost the titan winging of the thought. It lay at ease in a sweetness of heaven sense, delivered from grief with no need left to aspire. Free, self-dispersed in voluptuous innocence, lulled and born into roseate cloud fire. But suddenly there soared a dateless cry, deep as night, imperishable as time. It seemed death's dire appeal to eternity, earth's outcry to the limitless sublime. So he was there in that beautiful heaven. It's Sri Aurobindo himself talking his own experience, that he was lost, free, self-dispersed in voluptuous innocence, lulled and born into roseate cloud fire. It's a beautiful heaven. No need to have any more struggle, nothing. But suddenly a voice comes. What is that voice? Earth's outcry to the limitless sublime. Somebody, the earth consciousness, cries to Sri Aurobindo saying, O high seeker of immortality, is there not ineffable a bliss too vast for these finite harmonies, too divine for the moment's unsure kiss? Arms taking to a voiceless supreme delight, life that meets the eternal with closed breast, an unwalled mind dissolved in the infinite, force one with unimaginable rest. I think Amal Kiran has great lines about these things. I, earth, have a deeper power than heaven. Now these are the lines. I, earth, have a deeper power than heaven. My lonely sorrow surpasses its rose joys. A red and bitter seed of the rapture seven, my dumbness fills with echoes of a far voice. By me the last finite, yearning, strives to reach the last infinities unknown. The eternal is broken into fleeting lives, and God had pent in the mire and the stone. So when you hear this earth's cry, which says, I have greater opportunity, greater possibility, greater, that innate, inborn realization I have. Temporarily I have this kind of I'm away from all that. But it's telling the earth is telling Sri Aurobindo, come back. Don't be in that temporary heaven, because I have greater possibilities. So dissolving the kingdoms of happy ease, rocked and split and faded their dream chime. All vanished, ungrasped eternities, soul survived and timelessness seized time. Earth's heart was felt beating below me still, veiled, immense, unthinkable above. My consciousness climbed like a topless hill, crossed seas of life to epiphanies of love. Light and love. Love is from the earth. So he says, I came back to earth, hearing his cries. That's exactly the explanation of this line. And where he says, to bring down, I sacrifice not earth to happier worlds. So Sri Aurobindo says, no, I too I left the life heavens, hearing the cries of earth. So we have the same lines here. So similarly we say down a few more lines, I skip here. It says, what force condemned to birth and death and tears these conscious creatures crawling on the globe? If earth can look up to the light of heaven and hear an answer to her lonely cry, not vain their meeting, nor heaven's touch a snare. If thou and I are true, the world is true. I think there's one line is enough for Shankaracharya's philosophy. I mean, a whole Advaita can be answered in one sentence. If thou and I are true, the world is true. Because this is where Shankaracharya gets stuck actually. Then you see, if all is illusion, then what you are saying is also illusion. You see the simple answer. If the world is a mithya, who is saying this? Somebody called X. And what is the reality of X? X himself is an illusion, is a mithya, is a falsehood. So what all you are telling us is a falsehood, is a mithya. So simple answer is, if you are true and if I am true, what you are saying is truth and what I am saying is truth, the world is true. If thou and I are true, the world is true. Although thou hide thyself behind thy works, to be is not a senseless paradox. Now, these are very beautiful lines. Since God has made earth, earth must make in her God. What hides within her breast, she must reveal. I claim thee for the world that thou hast made. If man lives bound by his humanity, if he is tied forever to his pain, let a greater being then arise from man, the superhuman with the eternal mate, and the immortal shine through earthly forms. Else were creation vain and this great world and nothing that in time's moment seems to be. But I have seen through the insentient mask, I have felt a secret spirit stir in things, carrying the body of the growing God. It looks through veiling forms at veilless truth. It pushes back the curtain of the gods. I climb towards its own eternity. So these are, as I'm telling you, a constant positiveness. See, we are seeing here the personality of Savitri, who is constantly fighting for earth. So whereas the other voice of ecstasy is trying to wean her away into that heaven, into that place where there is no sorrow, nothing. But you see, all these lines when she is making about earth is truth. Since God has made earth, earth must make in her God. That is the single line philosophy of Sri Aurobindo, that earth itself must be transformed.
We are sons of God and must be given as
He. So these are very beautiful mantric sentences which tell us what Sri Aurobindo wants. So these are the arguments. Then God answered to the woman's heart, O living power of the incarnate word, all that the spirit has dreamed thou canst create. Thou art the force by which I made the worlds. Thou art my wisdom, vision, and my will and voice, etc., etc. Then what is important here is this line middle, I think maybe for 10 lines you skip. But if thou wilt not wait for time and God, do then thy work and force thy will on fate. As I have taken from thee my load of night, and taken from thee my twilight's doubts and dreams, so now I take my light of utter day. These are my symbol kingdoms, but not here can the great choice be made that fixes fate, or utter the sanction of the voice supreme. Well, you see, once again a test to say, okay, if you want to work for earth and all that, you may work, but if thou wilt not wait for time and God, don't be in a hurry. There is a time for everything. So until then, at least you come to my kingdom. Be there with me. But Savitri is not to be taken away. You see, last line of this voice in the same para. If thou must indeed deliver man and earth on the spiritual heights, look down on life, discover the truth of God and man and world. Then do thy task of knowing and seeing all. Ascend, O soul, into thy timeless self. Choose destiny's curve and stamp thy will on time. It's the same message here, that if thou must indeed deliver man and earth, do it, but discover the truth of God and man and world, then do thy task knowing and seeing all. So all the time in different ways the voice is attracting. That you'll wait until then you come with me. When the world is ready, then we can do the work. Until now, don't be in a hurry. So it's a very positive, very beautiful, alluring. There's no threat and fear and all that, but a very beautiful alluring. Then even that we'll see here, Savitri will reject. And then last thing we say is, choose, maybe with you half a page, you come down. Choose, spirit, thy supreme choice not given again. For now from my highest being looks at thee, the nameless, formless peace where all things rest. In a happy, vast, sublime cessation, know an immense extinction in eternity, a point that disappears in the infinite, felicity of the extinguished flame, last sinking of a wave in a boundless sea, end of the trouble of thy wandering thoughts, close of the journeying of the pilgrim soul. Accept, O music, weariness of thy notes, O stream, wide breaking of thy channel banks. So the ultimate temptation is nirvana. So he offers her the absolute nirvana, an immense extinction in eternity. Nirvana is that extinction. That I'll give you that experience where you can be there eternity, a point that disappears in the infinite, felicity of the extinguished flame. But the question is, who is going to experience that felicity? Because you have extinguished. There's nothing of you. So you see, it is a very beautiful trick being played on Savitri. I'll give you nirvana, I'll give you felicity, I'll give you all that, forever be there. Accept, O music, weariness of thy notes. The moments fell into eternity, but someone yearned within a bosom unknown, and silently the woman's heart replied, Thy peace, O Lord. Now these are a few lines we can see until the end of the paragraph, which are the gist of the temptation, the gist of the allurement. And now we have the ultimate, if I can say, aspiration of Savitri. But you might have noticed something here. Many a time Sri Aurobindo has called Savitri the woman here. We don't call her the avatar or the daughter or anything. He's calling her the woman. You see, the woman is not just the woman that we think it to be. It is that universal woman. It is that universal consciousness of the female, the dynamic Shakti. So now it is the gist where it says, Thy peace, O Lord, a boon within to keep amid the roar and ruin of wild time. For the magnificent soul of man on earth, thy calm, O Lord, that bears thy hands of joy. When I read this passage, I remember keenly Sri Aurobindo. He must have been given all these temptations. He had not a temptation. He had nirvana. He had the silence of the mind. He had Kali's darshan. He had the Nirguna Brahman. He had Vishwarupa darshan. Everything. But still he says, Lord, thank you for the lovely experience. But that's not the end for which I came. I mean, it's so remarkable to see the reflection of Sri Aurobindo's own experience. That the Lord has not only, here is a temptation, but with Sri Aurobindo it was a reality of his own experience. So he says, everything. He says, thy calm, O Lord, that bears thy hands of joy. So that is the first one we see, this question of the peace, the joy. He says, no. Limitless like ocean round a lonely isle, a second time the eternal cry arose. Wide open are the ineffable gates in front. My spirit leans down to break the knot of earth, amorous of oneness without thought or sign, to cast down wall and fence, to strip heaven bare, see the large eye of infinity, unweave the stars into silence pass. In an immense and world-destroying pause, she heard a million creatures cry to her. The same poem like the Life Heavens, you see. A million creatures crying to her. Through the tremendous stillness of her thoughts, immeasurably the woman's nature spoke. Thy oneness, Lord, in many approaching hearts, my sweet infinity of thy numberless soul. Mighty retreating like a sea in ebb, a third time swelled the great admonishing call. You see, we have here the felicity, the sweetness. But she says, I want my sweet infinity of thy numberless souls. You see, it's not just one sweetness of my soul. I want this human unity. I want this mankind. I want to experience the sweetness of all. So don't take me and give me only my sweetness, or only let not only my soul experience thy sweet. You see, this is really, I would say if you want to write about Sri Aurobindo's philosophy, just take these 4 temptations, and that's the essence there. So third time, he says, a third time swell the great admonishing call. I spread abroad the refuge of my wings, out of its incommunicable deeps. My power looks forth of mightiest splendor, stilled into its majesty of sleep, withdrawn above the dreadful whirlings of the world. A sob of things was answer to the voice, and passionately the woman's heart replied, thy energy, Lord, to seize on woman and man, to take all things and creatures in their grief, and gather them into a mother's arms. So this is again that infinite energy. He said, let me gather everyone. I don't want to have only enjoy the energy alone. See, all the time the earth touch, the human touch, the peace, the joy, the energy. You remember that line we said, the joy which is not shared by all is no joy at all. So it's the same tone. Then we see the last one. Solemn and distant like a seraph's lyre, a last great time, the warning sound was heard. I opened the wide eye of solitude to uncover the voiceless rapture of my bliss, where in a pure and exquisite hush it lies, motionless in its slumber of ecstasy, resting from the sweet madness of the dance, out of whose beat the throb of hearts was born. Breaking the silence with appeal and cry, a hymn of adoration tireless climbed, a music beat of winged uniting souls. Then all the women yearningly replied, thy embrace, which rends the living knot of pain, thy joy, O Lord, in which all creatures breathe, thy magic flowing waters of deep love, thy sweetness give to me for earth and men. I mean, imagine the intensity. I mean, who can really refuse all that the divine has given? But here is that avatar for the earth. So she says, nothing, all that embrace, thy joy, thy magic waters of deep love, thy sweetness, you give me, but not for my sake, give me for earth and men. So here we have the end of the temptation. You know, those who know Christianity, Christ also went through this temptation. So there is in the avatar's life a choice given for this temptation. And Savitri, of course, not only passes, but she represents the earth's aspiration. So we have a very beautiful passage here. Then we have the final. Till now there was a dialogue between Savitri and the voice of the divine. Now that she has passed the test, there is the monologue. There is a single voice, because now she is uplifted into her true avataric role. But there's one thing that I want you to understand. You see, we had here started with a prophecy before the birth of Savitri. When Ashwapati goes to the Divine Mother, she tells him, we know this passage, a seed shall be sown in death's tremendous hour, a branch of heaven transplant to human soil. So this passage where we said, immortal love shall beat his glorious wings, delight shall sleep in the cloud net of her hair, beauty shall walk celestial on the earth, all mights and greatnesses shall join in. This was a prophecy regarding the birth of Savitri. But now what we are going to see is Savitri is born, she has grown up, she has conquered, she has got married, her husband is dead. But now this woman, she fights for the earth. It's kind of her mission is done till now. The kind of the mission for the earth till now, that means conquering death, conquest of, passing her own test. So there is a sudden cutoff here. The cutoff is from the past to the present was still this line, thy sweetness give to me for earth and man. From here there's a sudden leap in the text, in the ideal, in the imagery, in the description, in the whole power of the verses. From now on you will see in that last monologue by the divine, I call the mother, maybe the supreme, you will see the true role of the avatar of the future now. Till now, past and present. But now the voice is going to tell her what is the work that you will be doing. Because immediately after this, chronologically, Satyavan is given. Satyavan can come back because she has conquered death, she has seen transformed death, and from the supramental consciousness, the Satyavan can come back. So it is a kind of story has ended. From the point of a story, it's come to a finale. But does the finale, that means after the coming of Satyavan and Savitri, does the story end there? Story-wise, Mahabharata, yes, they all go. The father is fine. He has his sight back. He has his kingdom back, and all that. But that is incomplete. For Sri Aurobindo, that's only part one. Because the returning of Satyavan is not the aim of Savitri. So what we are going to get here is the true vision of Savitri and Satyavan together. What their presence, what their new presence, not just what their past presence. Is no more Savitri and Satyavan, the husband and the wife. It's now Savitri and Satyavan, the new roles. Because Satyavan is now an incarnation of the new consciousness. Remember the soul that had gone into death, the truth that had gone into death. You see, Satyavan is that true soul who had gone into death, into the inconscient. And that, as I explained to you later after Kalpana's talk, I told you Satyavan cannot fight death because he is himself given himself to death. He cannot challenge death because he has come and leaped into death, into the inconscient, so that he may invite the descent, invite the higher light into death. If he challenges death and if he says, okay, I'll fight back, then the descent would not be there. So this aspiration of Satyavan, who is preparing the earth consciousness, who is there, it is kind of, he's there in the inconscient darkness and is appealing to that light, the divine light of love and grace to come down. Because there must be somebody to appeal, to call, and then the divine grace comes. So Satyavan will remain there. He will not jump out of death, come out of death, withdraw out of death. Then the grace will not come. And without the coming of the grace, there cannot be transformation. There cannot be change. In fact, that is a story that the mother gives us, that after the first creation, which all of us have discussed, all those falsehood and ignorance and suffering, etc., that happens, that the four aspects. Then the mother tells the Lord, saying, Lord, what do I do? This is what has happened. We started with the positive thing, it became the most opposite thing. So she appeals to the Lord, saying, the only way is now you have to come down. You see, this is a very significant thing. Mother calls upon the Lord, saying, now you descend. And the Lord descends into the inconscient as love. I mean, it's a very simple story, but it is quite the summary of Savitri. You see, this inconscient, the descent of the Supreme comes into the inconscient as love. And then from there, slowly, love spreads its light. Love and delight. And that is what is now evolving. So we have that kind of a thing, and there Mother gives in her talks an explanation saying that descent of the Supreme as love is the first avatar into the inconscient. That is the very first avatar, not the Dasha avatar that we speak of. So avatarana means coming down, manifesting. That is the avatarana, is coming down. So that was the first coming down of the Supreme into the inconscient as love. And that first avatar's name is Satyavan. So Satyavan has descended out of his great love into the inconscient. So he is love in the inconscient. But then here there is love as a superconscious. Its name is Savitri. So it's always love meeting love. The ascending, evolving love and the descending, involving love and grace. So it is purely the meeting of love and love. It is not the question of Satyavan meeting Savitri in the forest. So it's on that high level of the evolutionary and the involutionary love aspects. So that is Satyavan. So if we see that way, you have to understand now that Satyavan is that now, you see, he has now come out of this grip of death thanks to the descent of this involutionary, of this descending love. So now Satyavan is not a new being, is a new consciousness. It is no more the old mental, spiritual, vital, religious consciousness, nothing to do with the old. So obviously the story changes from now. It is not the happy living that we have in the Mahabharata. They seem to have lived for 400 years more. What will they do with that 100 children? So they have to live 400 years. But that is not the theme. So now this passage becomes brilliant because a transformed Satyavan, and now the avatar who had descended as Savitri is now fully conscious of her own transcendental avatarhood. So you see these magnificent creatures there. And so the Supreme Divine says, look at the future. This is the future for which you have to live and work. Not physically. They are not there physically. But it matters not. They have done a work in the passage of time. Now their work, even though not there in their physical, their work continues. And their work will continue. And what will be their effect upon earth and man and nature? So this prophetic voice, call it the Supreme Lord, call it the Mother, it matters not. I have already read out to you. She says it matters not what you call me, Supreme or not. But the work is the same. So these almost 500 lines that we have here are the most miraculous lines. I mean, you cannot sometimes read them. They're so full of, packed with power. It's almost this atomic power is there. Every word is seized with power. So we see, we have, these are lines I suppose I do not even dare to read oftentimes, because they are beyond the grasp of the mind, beyond the grasp of your imagination. Your mind can swell up to its best and still not understand. But we will see if we can try and understand, not understand. This is not for understanding, because beyond the grasp of the mind, it is at a level when man has gone beyond the mind. So what are you trying to understand? A thing that is already beyond the mind? You can't do that. So we will it is I will see what to do. But I'd like to take up only no, this is not 500 lines I note here. It is 300 lines of prophecy. Yeah, it's not 500. Maybe the whole speech is 500, but just this prophecy is 307 lines. And after that, we have the last para. Just let me read it out for sake of reading out. Then from a timeless, just come to the very last para of this canto 11. Then from a timeless plane that watches time, a spirit gazed out upon destiny, in its endless moments saw the ages pass, and still was in a silence of the gods, The prophet moment covered limitless space and cast into the heart of hurrying time a diamond light of the eternal peace, a crimson seed of God's felicity. A glance from the gaze fell of undying love. A wonderful face looked out with deathless eyes. A hand was seen drawing the golden bars that guard the imperishable secrecies. A key turned in a mystic lock of time. But where the silence of the gods had passed, a greater harmony from the stillness born, surprised with joy and sweetness yearning hearts, and ecstasy and a laughter and a cry. A power leaned down, a happiness found its home. Over wide earth brooded the infinite bliss. Now I'd like to take you to the last book 12 epilogue, just one or two lines here, paragraphs. Uh,
Can you just explain this, the passage that you have read?
Pardon?
Can you explain it in some words?
Yeah, I'll just come back. I'll come back to that. Let me finish this. Yeah, can you come on book 12, epilogue, to a passage starting with, Then filled the glory of their happiness, they rose and with safe clinging figures. You got that? 718. Now after that, the first speech, first one page you jump and come to this line, all now is changed. Got it? All now is changed, yet all is still the same. Lo, we have looked upon the face of God. Our life has opened with divinity. We have borne identity with the Supreme and known His meaning in our mortal lives. Our love has grown greater by that mighty touch and learnt its heavenly significance. Yet nothing is lost of mortal love's delight. Heaven's touch fulfills, but cancels not our earth. Our bodies need each other in the same lust. Still in our breasts repeat heavenly secret rhythm. Our human heart beats passionately close. Still am I she who came to thee mid the murmuring of sunlit leaves upon this forest verge. I am the Madran, I am Savitri. All that I was before, I am to thee still. Close comrade of thy thoughts and hopes and toils, all happy contraries I would join for thee. All sweet relations marry in our life. I am thy kingdom even as thou art mine. The sovereign and the slave of thy desire. Thy prone possessor, the sister of thy soul, and mother of thy wants. Thou art my world, the earth I need, the heaven my thoughts desire, the world I inhabit, and the God I adore. Thy body is my body's counterpart, whose every limb my answering limb desires, whose heart is the key to all my heartbeats. This I am, and thou to me, O Satyavan. Our wedded walk through life begins anew. No gladness lost, no depth of mortal joy. Let us go through this new world that is the same. For it is given back, but it is known, a plaything, playing ground and dwelling house of God, who hides himself in bird and beast and man, sweetly to find himself again by love, by oneness. His presence leads the rhythms of life that seek for mutual joy in spite of pain. We have each other found, O Satyavan, in the great light of the discovered soul. Well, I want to just tell you a bit of the significance of this very beautiful, reassuring lines, You see, they have come back. Of course, Satyavan has come back and all that. He says, what's happened to me? Was it a dream? Was it all a vision? So Savitri, you see, that is the beauty that we have in Sri Aurobindo, that heaven's touch fulfills but cancels not our earth. This is what is there in the synthesis in everything, that he has come with a new consciousness. But it doesn't mean he has become an ascetic. He has really rejected life, he has rejected relations, he has rejected nothing. So he says, all now is changed, yet all is still the same. We have looked upon the face of God, our life has opened with divinity. This is the line that I would apply to my own life. We have looked upon the face of God, our life has opened with divinity. So that's the essential feeling that we have, that having looked at her face and the divinity, our life has changed. But the beauty is, we have borne identity with the Supreme, yet nothing is lost of mortal love's delight. So you see, if these two new beings with a new consciousness, supramental consciousness, were to cut off from this earth, the whole journey would have been meaningless. Why did they bring this higher consciousness? And now you understand why she and Sri Aurobindo were amongst us, amidst us, walking to us, talking with us, seeing into our human problems, into our human chaos, corruption. But all the time trying to change it. You see, all now is change. Trying to change it in a close, intimate communion with the human beings. That is the marvel. They did not become isolated and said, hey, we belong to the high consciousness of the supermind. No, we cannot be with you. Even after 1956, when the whole supermind came down, still within 2 years or 3 years, she talks of Aurobindo. You see, that is how they were wanting to plow back the supermind into earth, into human lives. So this whole assurance here by Savitri is wonderful because of that. That she says, I am yours. We belong to each other. Our love, our delight, our body, our senses will all be there as it is, but a transformed one. They are no more under the vital. They are no more under the grip of the ignorance. They are no more under the darkness. So we see that there is a possibility of juxtaposition of the man and Superman. It's not that there is a gap. Superman can and will work amongst human beings. So all this is not cancelled. Our love, our work, our endeavor, our aspiration, they are only elevated in rhythm and consciousness. So that is how the new light can penetrate and transform. So this passage is, is a very beautiful one. Read it again when you can, because that's the essence of this, and that should be a very important part of our understanding of Savitri. And one line just turned around another 2 pages of the most magnificent lines is this, because the sages, the rishis, they ask what happened to all this Savitri and all that. Satyavan replied with smiling lips, lay all on her. She is the cause of all. 723, yeah. Lay all on her, she is the cause of all. With her enchantments, she has twined me around. Behold, at noon, leaving this house of clay, I wandered in far-off eternities, yet still a captive of her golden hands. I tread your little hillock called green earth, and in the moments of your transient sun, live glad among the busy works of men. This is really, it reminds us very much about Aurobindo telling all the devotees, lay all on her, she is the cause of all. The single mantra, remember that. Because lay, I mean, surrender, give up, put at her feet all. Because she is the cause, she is the beginning, she is the reason, she is the end. So what Satyavan is telling is a grandiose message for all of us. That in his life it was she is the cause. But for us, now we know who is that person to in front of whom I lay all that. The last one's there, he says, if this is she of whom the world has heard, wonder no more at any happy change. Each easy miracle of felicity of a transmuting heart, the alchemy is. So that is the future. Wonder no more at any happy change. The world will change and is going to change. If you have heard about her, you say, yes, obviously. The mother and Sri Aurobindo have come, so obviously the change has to come. It's natural, there's nothing to doubt, no question. So he says, if this is she of whom the world has heard, wonder no more at any happy change. And then one spoke there who seemed a priest and a sage and all that. So some of these lines have come, which are magnificent guidelines to our own life. And now I come back to those prophetic lines where we had left off. This oh beautiful body. So what I thought was, I said it's too difficult for me to read. So I've asked the mother to read it for us. And I think Miresh will give us right from the beginning. So I think this is the meditation that I wanted in a different way. We have done efforts in meditation, but now listen to her. If you want, you can keep your books in front of you. If you want, you can close your eyes. And that's the best and the highest meditation I can give you.